network should perform excellently today.
Hopefully. They were not at their best yesterday, so I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
No.
Okay, I'm just holding off on the launch. And then we can start up. Okay. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the insightful session of enhancing candidate experience, creating seamless recruitment journey. My name is Dorothy Chukuma, and I'm actually delighted to see so many of you joining us today. You can actually still send the link to your friends to actually attend this very insightful session. So it's actually my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mrs. Taiwo Dayo Abata, with over 25 years in HR. She's actually the current regional head of HR of Sub-Saharan Africa for VFS Global, managing HR strategies across 30 plus locations. Her career includes roles at Premier Africa Finance Group, Mutual Benefit Assurance PLC, and Total Health Trust Limited. Taiwo holds a degree in economics from the University of Ado-Ekiti and an MBA from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. She's a certified coach, mentor, and career counselor with training from the London Academy Business School. She's also a member of several professional bodies, including CIPM and ICF, and is a certified senior professional in human resources international, which is SPHRI. And Taiwo also reserves and serves as an advisory council, faculty positions, and boards, including the Power Woman Network and HR Expo Africa. And she's also the founder of Taiwo's Coffee Chat and the HR Foundry, like we all know. Taiwo supports over 1,000 HR professionals. Awards includes the CIPM Best Practice Awards and African Women Industrialization Award. She's also an author of Climbing the Career Ladder for Success. Taiwo values teamwork and is a dedicated spouse and parent, balancing professional and personal passions. Right. So today, Mrs. Taiwo is actually going to be sharing insightful sessions on enhancing candidate experience, creating a seamless recruitment journey, which is particularly very relevant to us as recruiters and hiring managers and whatnot. Right. So before we actually start up, I'm also going to be letting you know. So the link is actually going to be, if you can check the chat box, right? We'll be covering so many key points today, but to help you retain everything, we've actually put together a simple PDF for you. If you didn't opt in before, you can still do so by clicking the link in the comment section. Hi, Mrs. Taiwo. Are you still on the call with me? I think the network has started. It's glitches today. I sincerely apologize, everyone. I'm sure the network is just being very funny as usual. So just okay.
Hi.
Welcome back, Mr. I know the network probably threw you off for a minute.
Yes, put me back into the backstage. Hello, everyone. Good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning.
Super glad
Thank
to
you
be
so
here.
much.
And nice to meet you, Dorothy. I look forward to an exciting time today. Thank
Oh,
you.
same here, same here. Okay, so let's just dive into this. I really can't wait for us to like get into the deep nuggets of those questions that we've actually prepared for today. So, my first questions. I know that recruitment journeys can be very funny for some candidates and also for some employers, right? But what does a positive candidate experience entail, and why is it very important for employers?
Okay, so I would say that a positive kind of experience entails a lot of things, and I'll just pick out maybe three or four that I believe are germane and important. Um, First and foremost, I think I would say that that is the entry point of people into our organization, and we need to make that experience as positive as possible. Now, also that the candidate is coming with a bit of apprehension. This is somebody who has just left school or maybe transiting in a role or changing jobs. And so there's some form of anxiety. So we need to come from a point of empathy. And a positive candidate experience will involve things like clear communication. There has to be clear communication in terms of how will this journey that you are embarking on with our organization be like. Um, Things as simple as even how you have coined the job description, as simple as possible. Also, even the interviewing process, everything there has to be clear communication. The next thing I would say is that to ensure a positive kind of experience, there has to be professionalism and
Yeah,
respect. Most
yeah,
times for us, I'm going to be breaking a few tables here. I've also used some cliches, but it's a conversation. I want to make it as interesting as possible.
yes,
Most times,
yes.
the hiring manager or the organization, we think we're the best thing that has happened after sliced bread. Mind my words. We think we're the best thing
True.
that has happened after sliced bread. So we come into that conversation or onto that experience with a chip on our shoulder. There has to be
Yeah.
respect for the candidate who has decided to want to go on this journey with your organization, and a lot of professionalism must is also part of the things that enhance a positive customer kind of experience. Now there has also to be a feedback mechanism in place. So you see people
Yeah.
interview, they interview with your organization and they're waiting days, they're waiting months to get a feedback. Right from the shortlisting, right from let me use the word harvesting the CVs and the shortlisting, there has to be a mechanism in process. So you
Yeah.
have used, I think I'm going to drop the god. Jobberman has an applicant tracking system.
Yeah.
The first thing is actually to get those CVs in. The criteria must be set, and if the candidate doesn't meet that initial criteria, there has to be an auto response to say, "Thank you, we have looked at your CV. It doesn't meet our requirement, but we will keep your database." Something nice coined. So there has to be a
Yeah.
feedback mechanism all through that process, from the beginning to the end. And also at the end of the day, after candidacy, an offer has been accepted, there has to be a smooth onboarding. With these four things that I've said, it will ensure a positive candidate experience. Dorothy.
I actually agree with you. And sometimes I know that it can be very overwhelming for HRBPs and HR officers. And then they're like, oh, I have a lot of things to do. But I feel that if there is like a structure put in place, you've actually set up this thing. Okay, this is what I need to do to get this role filled. If I'm not going to take this particular candidate, let me have my pipeline. Let me send them an email. Because I feel that some HR professionals actually forget. We're bound to do that. It's okay for you to forget and make mistakes and not follow through with that structure. But if there is a structure in place and this particular company is known for that, then I feel that it's actually a good way to start up and say, okay, this is a process that we've put in place, and then let us go through with it. So it brings me to my follow-up question: how does a positive candidate experience, right, contribute to building a strong brand and reputation? Because it's also a way to sell out EVPs. So how does a positive candidate experience contribute to building that brand for them?
I can't hear you. Your voice was
Oh,
breaking
okay.
throughout.
Okay. Is it better now? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay, so I was saying that it brings me to my next question, right? How does a positive candidate experience contribute to building a strong employer brand and reputation? I know that EVPs can come in because you're trying to sell, attract talent into the business. You're trying to create a niche for your brand. So how would an employer, how would they include positive candidate experience to doing this?
So you see, I would say having a positive candidate experience has a strong implication on the organization and on the brand. Uh, I'm going to go a bit granular now. The same way you are trying to attract a candidate into your organization as a
Yeah.
potential employee, the same way the candidate is also checking you out as an organization in terms of what are your processes, how are you doing things in that organization, and if organizations can understand this, there are benefits to them. There are some benefits to the organization. One, the hiring timeline, the hiring tact, there will be a drastic reduction in your turnaround time to hire when you are focused on ensuring a positive candidate experience. The other thing is that when you have a positive candidate experience, you're able to manage your costs. So there's cost
Yeah.
efficiency.
Efficiency.
I don't know whether you can still hear me.
Yes, I can. I
Now,
can very
also
well.
the fact that I'm still talking about we're in a war for talent. This has been going on for the last 15, 20 years, whereby the requirements for the organization vis-a-vis the talents that are out there, there's to a large extent there's a mismatch. And so the viable ones are few. The viable ones are few. And so when you engender a positive kind of experience, you're able to attract the best of the talents into your organization. More importantly, let's look at it from a legal framework. It helps you
Yeah.
to comply. I've seen cases
Mhm.
whereby candidates sue potential employers because there has been a glitch or something went wrong during the recruitment process. It could have been a question that was asked. It could have been the turnaround time for that process, and it didn't all go well to the candidate. And then there are legal issues that come around. So when you ensure that all these things are in place, you are focused on ensuring a positive candidate experience, then you're able to take care of these things. You get your right candidate, you're able to work within the ambit of the law. It also ensures that your brand is sharpened, your brand visibility and acceptance is sharpened.
Yeah.
Basically, those
Hmm.
things that I've
Uh,
stated.
Thank you so
Companies
much.
must focus on it. It's very important.
Very important. I agree because let's say speaking on the stages of recruitment processes, how can organization actually optimize each stage and create a seamless experience? Because sometimes, like you mentioned in the beginning, some organizations do not put structures in place to make sure that they have a very seamless recruitment process. So, what are the key stages of recruitment process, and how can an organization or employers optimize each stage to create a seamless process and experience for
Fantastic.
employees?
Yeah. So the first stage of the recruitment process, I would say, is the sourcing. The sourcing.
Hmm.
Where you sourcing your candidates from? And I always say that the quality of the hire, the quality of people you bring into your organization, are hinged on three things. One, your source of hiring, where you sourcing from. And if you're not sourcing from the right place, then you wouldn't get the right kind of people that you're looking for. Um, and that brings me also to what Jobberman is doing and the applications and the tools that Jobberman has available. It allows you to have access to pool of talents. I think I was checking about 3 million. And so the more vibrant and more robust your source is, the more quality of talents you're able to attract into your organization. That's one. The second thing is also that your recruitment process. What's your recruitment process like? That's an internal thing. And the third thing that determines the quality of the hires you bring in is your brand visibility. How sharp is your brand? Now, the first stage is the sourcing. Where are you sourcing from? You need to begin to leverage on job boards and platforms to post the vacancies you have available, and that not only from your side, that they are also accessible to the
Yeah.
potential candidates. That's one. The second stage will be the selection stage. And this
Yeah.
is also where you now have to use an applicant tracking system uh, just to sift those that have come into your funnel. You want to have
Yeah.
a strong ATS. where you can set your criteria and you see if, depending on how strong the ATS is, you could have 10,000 applicants, but because you've set your parameters, could narrow it as far as below as 100. So that quickens your turnaround time in recruitment. The next stage in terms of the recruitment hiring process will be the interviewing. So how do you interview? How many stages do you have with your interview process? How has you as a hiring manager trained your internal workforce or the other stakeholders to ensure that the interview process is seamless and you're able to get the right people into your organization? I don't want to break a few tables here, but I
Yeah.
think the hiring managers are passionate. They want to get these things done. But if the people internally, the other stakeholders, for example, the HOD or the panel members or the panelists, if they're not properly trained also, it could also have a problem with the hiring process. And of course, the next thing will be the candidacy. You've done your interviewing has been done, you've narrowed down to who you want, and then you have your candidacy. Most times we always say the organizations will have the best option, the second best, and the third best, depending on how the negotiation and the offers go. If it goes well, then we move on to the negotiation and the offer, and subsequently we start the onboarding. In all of these processes, the steps I have highlighted, there is a dire need for us to leverage so much on technology because the
Yeah.
world has evolved and you're trying to
Very
drive efficiency. At the same
exactly.
time, look at what we're talking about. We want to make the candidate experience as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I like the fact that you actually infused technology into all of this because some people still, I'm sure there's some companies that do the whole paper, getting paper CVs and all whatnot. So I'm always wondering, how do you want to get that done? So, because how efficient is that? So it brings me to my next question. So I know that how do candidates, right, their interactions with a company during recruitment process impact their perception about that organization. So having their interactions and how does that interaction with the particular candidate, how does it impact that particular organization?
Yeah, the interaction of the candidate with your organization has a huge impact. It has a huge impact. And I'm still saying that we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful. But first and foremost, I will talk about transparency. Is your recruitment process transparent? That will determine the vibe or the feeling we are generating in the hearts of the candidates. So they can point back and say, "Oh, I had a seamless," and the processes were transparent. We've seen situations whereby companies interview, and at the end of the day, and the funny thing is that you see, the internet has gone as is there to enhance our activity. Let me give an
Yeah.
example. Five of us were interviewed for a role in an organization. In between, we connect with ourselves. There's a way they connect. They connect with themselves, and then they're finding out we were part of the five that were interviewed. Was any of us taken? None. Then it begins to affect the credibility of that organization. So
Yes.
transparency is very, very key, very key. Your feedback mechanism must be sharp and spot on. Beyond that, I'm still going back again to the interviewing process and how you have trained your people internally. It has a way to affect the mindset
Mindset
or the feeling
of
we're
the candidate.
engendering in the heart of those candidates. What we're trying to look out for at the end of the day, and this is my view and my opinion and what I teach, is that you are going back for everyone that has an encounter with the organization, you are trying to build a brand alumni. You're trying to build somebody, a brand champion, for me,
True.
somebody who's going to go back there and say, yeah, I didn't get into that organization, but my experience with that organization, they are top notch. And so
Yes.
these are the things that happen. So transparency, your communication, your turnaround time, feedback, and then the process. All these things have a way of framing the mindset of the candidates, of the candidates.
I completely agree because I always tell people that HR, in as much as you're the brain box of the organization, you should also know that you are highly the brand ambassador. Because if you can't market and sell out that organization to an employee, then there's no way that employee is going to get you're not going to get that buy-in into like, I want to come into
Yes.
this company. What is it? they're going to I'm actually looking out for them, saying that okay, I want to come in here. I like how their people treat, because there's one thing that works for Jobberman. Any new hire we get, one thing they would say is we're very welcoming. From your interview process, we're smiling with you, to your hiring and all whatnot. So even when were introducing you to everybody, you're getting that feel that okay, you're coming into, I'm not calling it family, but we're close knitted and we know how to just make sure that we're accommodating you. You would
and
walk,
and,
but
and
that
that,
doesn't mean you will smile.
exactly, and that brings me. Let me just elaborate more on your question. How do we
Yeah.
enhance that experience? How do we, first you first of all make use of an applicant tracking system. It is
True.
a way it fast tracks it. The second thing is that you must be pragmatic. When I say pragmatic, I mean use it of foresight in getting your recruitment strategy in place. There has to be a recruitment strategy, and that is
Yeah.
how organizations have to be intentional and deliberate about how
True.
people are being brought in. I
Yeah.
would say it's not only the responsibility of the hiring manager, but there has to be a strategy in place. The third one is that you have to drive operational efficiency.
Hmm.
You have to drive that. Yes, leverage so much on technology, and you could have all that process in a single application, like what Doberman has to offer. You know, you need to drive efficiency, and that links to your efficiency and the turnaround time with your processes. More important, there has to be a feedback mechanism in place. Sorry, like I said before, most times we think we're the best that happen after sliced bread. For me, what I've what I've institutionalized everywhere I've worked is to have a feedback mechanism. At
Yeah.
the last point whereby we want to give you the information or the result, whether
Yeah.
positive or negative, that email goes with a link to say, please share your experience with us. Just five
Hmm.
questions, because you need to get that feedback. When you get the feedback, then you are back again able to enhance your process. So most times we stop at a particular point, but the loop ends with that feedback. That feedback mechanism must be in place. It must be in place.
Hmm.
Thank you,
It-
Dorothy.
It's actually going to feed in through my next question. So I would say, I know you've touched on it, but just to elaborate a bit on it. So, what role does clear communication play in ensuring a smooth recruitment journey for candidates? Because I know that sometimes some people just send you recruitment updates. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not taking you, or we're keeping you in view, without explicitly explaining to you on the reason why we're not taking it. It could be that you're asking for something higher, and probably maybe when we have something better in future, that suits your salary band, we would actually invite you, or completely your documentation were not good enough. What role does clear communication play?
Clear communication, I would say, is the optimum. That is the
Yeah.
baseline. From the beginning of that experience, communication must be clear. I'm an advocate of even going as far as you might not say the exact salary, but give a range. It's still part of
Yeah.
communication. There's no need for us starting that conversation when we are not even in sync in terms of the job requirements. The second one is also that I've interviewed in an organization and they told me this process will take 3 weeks. So I've conditioned my mind to say 3 weeks. It's still part of communication. Communication is very key. It allays the fear of the candidate. Now, I'm still saying that for us as employers, we shouldn't look at things only from our own lens or from our own mirror. The candidate also has other potential employers who are trying to attract him or her to the organization. And so communication has to be clear in terms of what is this process going to take, documentation that are required, so that it helps to handle the issues that would happen after the interview has been concluded, and then one or two other issues, and you hear things like, you didn't tell me, I wasn't aware.
Where?
I have hired someone into my organization, and she told me, Taiwo, there was no realistic job preview. You didn't tell me it was going to be an open office plan. Where I'm coming from, I had my own close plan. Yes,
Open
there has to be
plan.
realistic job preview, and that's what's going to
Yeah.
happen. Yes, and that's what we talk about augmented reality and virtual reality. Take them through. Use the VR tool and take them through the office setting. This is parameter when you come into organization. This is where you will be sitting. This is the office plan. This is where your team are seated. All these things have to be clearly communicated. So, like the question you asked, Dorothy, communication
It's
is the
key.
bedrock,
It's
is
very
the
important.
foundation.
It's
Yeah.
very important. And just like you said, it's good that the lady actually gave you the feedback. So just imagine that you're saying the feedback probably on Naira Land, Glassdoor. You know how candidates can be very funny sometimes. I'm not
Yeah.
pleased with this particular recruitment process.
Mhm,
And then they
mhm,
put that
mhm.
information out and say, this is what this company is. It could just be a one off. But then the company's reputation is already on the verge.
Reputational
So it
damage already.
Yes, yes, and it actually brings me to my next question. How can an organization actually leverage candidates' testimonials and their positive experience to attract top talent?
Fantastic. So I've seen organizations that I've worked with. For us as HR, we have so many lives. Our guys not to mention names, or even the year we say one of my lives. So in one of my lives,
Yeah.
HR, there was a way HR was put into that process, even for the website revamp. And so even on your website revamp, on your website, of course there's a portal for HR where you can post your vacancies. Also,
Curious.
there, it's another way for you to harvest feedback from your people. So when you are doing your branding materials, or you have a brand visibility strategy you're trying to put in place, you infuse that into it. You could also take testimonials. So we say that for candidates that are coming eventually on their first day of hire, you could do a brief testimonial and say, we're going to be filming you, and then we will be recording you to give your testimonial. Of course, we know GPDR, we need to get the acceptance to do that. So you could use surveys to get feedback. You could do harvest testimonials, infuse that into your publicity materials on your social media platforms. You could also, it depend on what you're trying to target. If you're trying to target diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of your brand enhancement strategies, yes, that could also help. And say this year we recruited 15 female, or we recruited this people of this, something, and use that to
Definition.
enhance your brand visibility. So there's no both brand visibility and also candidate experience work hand in hand, and organizations can leverage on that so much, because you know what, it shows authenticity and also enhances the credibility of the organization, because you are working with real life people, real life
People.
data and information.
This data and technology is actually a very huge place. As in, it has a very huge role in recruitment. So it actually brings me to my next question. So, what are some innovative technologies and top tools that can actually enhance the candidate experience during the recruitment process? Which one? I'm very sure that with your wealth of experience, I'm sure you have a lot that you're familiar with. So, which one would you say?
Yeah, so we have the AI tools, which I know that a lot of organizations are already using. That's like the applicant tracking system that's already in place. You may want to use a CRM, uh, put a CRM in place. I think I mentioned also, and this is already being used. Some companies are already using video interviewing. Some companies are already using VR, AR. I told you for the VR, it helps you to be able to tackle that issue around realistic job preview, which helps you to remove the reality shock that candidates experience once they resume, because it's a different thing you're painting to them when you are interviewing them, and then it's a different thing they're experiencing when they come around. Companies are leveraging now on virtual reality and augmented reality to give the candidate an experience or a foresight into the role they're coming to. Then you also want to use assessment centers. You want to enhance your recruitment process. Uh, what is being used now, we have remote and hybrid interviewing process now, remote and hybrid, whereby the candidate doesn't have to show up, but everything is done remotely, or there could be a mix. Some stages of the interview are done remotely, then some are done on site. Companies are also
Yeah.
enhancing and using gamifications now. I use gamification just because you also want to test the mental stability or the fitness of the um, candidates. Want to check their critical reasoning skills, their decision making skills, because you and I know that now it's not only about your technical competencies. There are some soft skills that are also required to perform on the job. So you want to use
Yeah.
gamification, and also you also want to look at the other tools that are used around background checks and verifications now, done remotely.
Yes.
Companies go on your social media platforms. They have tools to check it's called your internet footprints. and they will harvest everything about you behind the scene, and then these are being used to take decisions. Yes, we also have some behavioral assessments. We have MBTI, we have the DISC assessments. These are the things that are currently being in place now to enhance the candidate experience and decision making in the now of work.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone. So to actually get the takes and insight from this webinar in the session bit, it's actually very important that you also click on the link in the comment section to get the PDF. So if you've actually opted to do that before, that's fine. But if you actually have not done that before, it's also okay for you to still do that now. So please just check the chat box. You'll see the link there. Just click on it. So going forward, thank you, Mrs. Taiwo, for all of these nuggets. I am certainly really having fun with this. So my next question is, what metrics and KPIs should organization use to track the effectiveness of their recruitment processes and candidate experience?
Your voice was
That's one.
breaking. I know you were trying to ask me a question, but I didn't hear anything.
Okay. So can you hear me now? Is it better? Apologies, everyone. I think the network has also turned. Okay, I think she's back now. Welcome back, Mrs. Taibo.
Hello.
Hi, Mrs. Taiwo. I think the network is just
It's
it's
our
just being today.
that's our reality. That's our reality.
Yes. We actually got a question. Before I ask you the other question I actually had in mind, there's actually a question that I was actually not to ask. Someone is asking in the comment section, if we don't get feedback from the recruitment company, is it okay to persistently demand it via email?
Is it positive that what?
Is it as in, so the question is, if we don't get
Can you
feedback, if we don't get feedback from the, can you hear me now? Is it clear? Is it clearer now? Is it clearer now?
Yeah, I can hear you. If you don't get feedback, yes, I can
Yes.
hear you.
If we
You
don't
said if you
get
don't get feedback,
from the recruitment company, is it okay to persistently demand it via mails?
Okay, so I'm going somewhere and I might be breaking a few tables here.
Okay.
It is not compulsory that an employer should give feedback, but it is advised because it is advised to do so that you can sharpen your brand visibility. It might
Hmm.
remember
Hi, Mrs. Taiwo. Can you hear me? Hi, Mrs. Taiwo.
very
Can you hear
well. I
me?
can hear you.
Okay. So, would you like me to take the
Hear
question again?
you.
I think I lost you for a bit. The network is really playing its own
I got
foul.
it. I got it. I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Mhm.
So I'm saying it is not compulsory for organizations to give feedback to candidates. It's not
Yeah.
compulsory. But we're talking about enhancing candidate experience. It is just good to do so. But I will put a caution there. I'll put a caution to say that you will have to find a way of coining your response properly to the candidates. The- some candidates, somebody is saying we should go off video. Maybe that will help. Let me, but it's clearer now. So I would say that because some candidates can be a bit difficult. So if you
True.
tell them that we're not taking it further because of the way you interviewed during that process wasn't too nice or it didn't go well with the interviewers, then they will take you back to school. Remember, I said that we're trying to avoid legal issues. So I would say a feedback can be given or should be given, but more more generic, more generic.
Hmm. Okay. So, another
But at
another
least you
question.
must give a feedback on whether
Yes,
the candidate
I agree on the
whether the
feedback
candidate was
because
successful or was not successful.
it's pretty much very important for feedbacks because sometimes
You have another
employee.
question.
Yes, I actually have another follow-up question. So, how do you can I don't know if you can hear me. Please, can you confirm you can hear me? Oh, the network again. We're so sorry, everyone. I think the network is really playing. It's not favorable to us today. Hi, Mrs. Taiwo. Can you hear me? Hi, Miss Taiwo. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm here. Great.
Okay.
Go ahead
You
with your
just
question, Dorothy.
okay.
We're going to enjoy ourselves.
Okay.
Let's just continue.
Okay, so the next one is how do you navigate organizations that pull you into in with some enticing perks but don't remain consistent with it? This is a very deep one to me. That's why I don't like when startups are the ones that are very faulty on this. Hi, Mrs. Tyrell. Can you hear me? Oh, this network. Hi, Miss Taiwo. Can you hear me now? Hi, Mr. Taiwo. Can you hear me now? Hi, Mrs. Taiwo. Welcome back. Okay, so would you like me to take the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the question is, how do you navigate organizations that pull you in with some enticing perks but do not remain consistent with them? It's a
Mm,
very, very,
okay.
very deep conversation.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would say that nobody can pull me in and nobody should pull you in. It's an employment contract. The employment contract must be clear and concise, and everything promised must be honored. Now, titles may change within the organization, so there might have been an employment contract and everything clearly stated. That's where transparency and openness comes in. Uh, so I always say the same boldness you had to hire me as an employer, and the same boldness I had in responding to my interview questions, it mustn't diminish when you get into the organization. So go back and have that conversation. Start with HR. HR, I've observed that this hasn't been done. It was promised. It wasn't even promised. It was part of my employment contract, and on basis of which I accepted to work with this organization, but it hasn't been forthcoming. Depending on how, and if it's a professional HR, remember I said respect and professionalism, then
Yeah.
HR should be able to give the right response. But HR cannot shy away or we play ostrich to employees' benefits.
Hmm.
If it, yeah, we can't, most times they play ostrich. And then you know what? I always say that assumption is the lowest form of communication. I don't assume things. Oh, they haven't paid me my housing allowance this month. Oh, let me assume that the company is not making money. I don't assume. I will go and find out exactly what the issue
Why?
is. But I said that as a proactive organization, it's important that we engage our people, have an open communication culture, and that when things are not going well, quickly call them into a meeting to let them know situation of things before it escalates. So to that person, please go ahead and have that conversation. Depending on your level, you can have it with your line manager, with HR. And if it means that you have to go and see the MD about it, because somebody could be, let me use our Nigerian word, sitting on it, please go ahead and escalate to leadership. But companies
Hmm.
cannot pay ostrich to employees' benefits. Now, when push comes to shove, want to make a decision. I'm going to seek legal redress about it, get a lawyer to write to my employer. But note that once it becomes an external, you're most ready to resign because you're bringing in a third party. Now, so when you want to go the legal route to get a lawyer to get your benefits from you, just make up your mind that you're end the relationship with that organization. But before it gets to that, for those of us who are HR on the call, let's be open and make sure that we
Yeah.
honor our the terms on the employment contract we give to employees and not play ostrich.
I agree. I actually was going to ask this question before I had this questions that came in place. So, what are the metrics and KPI that are very good that an organization should actually use to track and measure effectiveness of their recruitment processes and candidate experiences?
So I'm going to throw some people under the bus now, particularly the hiring managers. If we have
Yes.
leadership on the call, if you have MDCEOs on the call, if we
Mhm.
have leadership on the call, this should be the KPI of your hiring manager. First and foremost is time to fill. Time to fill basically measures the time it takes when you make a candidate an offer to the time it takes for that person to accept it. So you've made me an offer. If the interview had gone well, you've done a realistic job preview. I'm aware of everything. I should be able to make a decision max in 1 week. The longer it takes for a candidate to accept an offer, it begins to also determine the retention rate of that candidate. That means some queries have not been answered during that interview process. The second metrics you have to use is also time to hire. Remember, time to fill, time to hire. They are two different things. Time to hire is the time it takes from when that role became vacant to the date a candidate resumed in the
Yeah.
organization. So HR will say, well, there were 15 vacancies this year, and and when we do that when we're giving our reports, either at a QBR or at an NPR, that we have successfully been able to hire. No, I will put my hand up as leaders and I say, HR, we wanted these candidates to come in Q1, but yes, they came in, but they came in Q3. So the time to hire is also one of the metrics. You also want to look at your drop rates. Drop rate means that is the ratio of how many people were actually called into an interview process and how many people dropped off before you complete that process. And
Yeah.
there are inherent there. Maybe the timing of your interview, the timeline was the turnaround time was so long, and so some candidates dropped. So that's another ratio. You want to look at your that ratio. The fourth one you want to look at is also, I've mentioned drop off, is your retention rate. Your retention rate. So in 2024, we hired 500 employees. So by December, how many of those fresh hires are still with us? So it's not that HR has filled the role, but you want to look at the retention of how many people were hired during a particular period and how many people are left with you. Now, for me, one thing that I also look out for, which is very relevant in the now of work, is your diversity, also your diversity metrics. You want to also look at that. What the diversity ratio within the organization, and then they will hire how many male, how many female. You want to look at the diversity metrics also. So those are some of the ratios. Then on the candidate side, you want to look at your net promoter score. Your net promoter score. You want to look
Yeah.
at your candidate satisfaction rates. And like I said before, when we take one of the questions, that there must be a way you can harvest that feedback. How was your experience? How was your interviewing experience with our organization? What do you think it was a transparent process? Do you think the right questions were asked? Did you enjoy your experience? Is very, very important. So I've taken it from two sides, both from the side of the
Yeah.
employer and also from the side of the candidate. These are some of
Okay.
the metrics use.
Those are very, very, in fact, it's very clear. I'm sure most HR professionals on the call would actually agree with you. So it brings me to one of my last questions. What steps can organization actually take to ensure that candidates have a positive impression of the company, even if they are not selected for the position? I know that recruitment updates are there, but how else, how best can we actually go about this?
I will start from the internal. Train your people. You have to train them. And so for me, and this is what I've done all the while, we have what we call HR for non-HR managers. Bring the managers into your world as HR. And what I hammer on most times during those kind of trainings is the recruitment process from HR perspective and what we want from them as managers. So because yes, HR would start the process, but at one point or the other, stakeholders are involved.
Yeah.
So you want to train your people. Secondly, is that the organization must have a recruitment strategy. It involves so many people. It involves finance. It involves leadership. In terms of the decision making, we have to make sure that it's very, very tight and it's quick. Now, also, you want to look at your brand visibility because also HR is doing that their best to bring in talent into the organization. But what's your brand equity out there? Uh, how is that brand perceived? So it's not as if HR is not doing the work to bring in the talent, but there's one thing or the other on social media, either about your product, about your services, that is not, people are saying, no, I can't work with this organization. And that also
Yeah.
brings me to the fact that you need to enhance your recruitment process. You see, our recruitment process speaks a lot about our culture in an
Yeah.
organization. It speaks a lot about the culture. How you
Very
take
true.
me through that process They are giving me insight on how things are done in your organization. So if you haven't respected my time, you call me for interview at 10 o'clock, and then at 5 minutes to 10, you're telling me, sorry, we're going to move this to 12 o'clock. And it speaks a lot. It speaks a lot. So you want to look at your culture. And so it's a whole lot of things all together that an
Yeah.
organization must do. Also leverage on technology,
Very
and drive
important.
efficiency. How do you feel that you've interviewed a candidate and say, okay, dear Taiwo, we're willing to make you an offer now, find that I can Taiwo sent you a beautiful email. While you were still considering me for your organization, I have actually accepted another offer. How does that make you feel? You'll feel pained. So
Very pained.
that's linked to, yes, that leads to your efficiency. How are you driving that process in such a way that you're able to get the best of the best at the minimum time while still ensuring that your process is still intact? So I would say leverage on technology, work on your culture, train your people, and then the company is good to go.
Training the hiring managers and I mean the recruiters are very important because the quality of questions that you ask the candidate also shows
Yeah.
the kind of people you actually bring on board. So I always tell people it's not about just bringing in people. You're also looking at the quality of people. But sometimes I'll be very honest. We need to just sometimes fill up roles, and you're trying to overlook certain things just because you want to meet your target. But then, is it really healthy? Is it really good for the business?
Mm,
No,
mm.
obviously.
Do you know
So
that it's very easy to bring in candidates, but it's very easy to let employees go. You'll be
true.
shocked about the implications when employees now have issues and the company wants
Yeah.
to take a decision, the person should go. So from leadership
Yeah.
will say, I would deal, let that person go. But I was looking at how does it affect our brand? What are the final benefits we have to pay? Are there litigation issues that might emanate from this decision? So I would rather that you make your funnel to be as thin as possible right from the
Hmm.
point of entry. And the more
Wow.
you do it, the more your turnaround time will improve. Sincerely, the more your
Improve.
turnaround time will improve. The more you get it right. Yes.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone. Just to remind us to be able to get all takes from this session and this webinar, it's also very good for you to click on the link in the comment section, and you'll be able to download the PDF. It's actually going to be sent to your mailbox. So just feel free, look through the comment section, and you'll be able to get the link. So it also brings me to a few questions shy for my last question. What emerging trends and technologies are likely to shape the future of candidate experience and recruitment? This, to me, I feel that I really want to hear from you. So, what are the emerging trends would you say that are likely to shape the future?
You are calling them emerging trends for the site already. Maybe in our
Yeah.
climb, we're trying to imbibe them. But one thing I will emphasize, one of the things that is emerging in our own climb, but has already been established in other clients, will be the VR and the AR. There's a part of recruitment that we haven't really embraced here, and that's a realistic job preview, the RJP. It's very important, it's very critical in helping your candidate turned employee to assimilate quickly into your system. And how do you use that? So imagine you're having a virtual interview with me. Interview is remote. I haven't been to I've been on your premises. I don't know how that works. When you leverage on VR and AR, that's virtual reality and augmented reality, you take the employee candidate into your world. So the candidate knows exactly the look and feel via technology of the workspace and the environment. It's one of the emerging tools and trends that is happening, VR and AR. The other one is interviewing platforms. There's several interviewing platforms available now that companies are leveraging on to have interviews for candidates. The third one I would say is gamification. These are still new in our own environment, but gamification does a lot, particularly in checking the critical reasoning skills, emotional intelligence. Gamification brings other people into the same scenario, and you're playing with people virtually. It helps your decision making, critical reasoning skills, test your emotional intelligence of those candidates. Under 60 minutes, you've been able to do that soft skill assessment
Analyze
for
and
them.
all. Yes.
Yeah. Virtual interviewing platforms, VR, AR, gamification, the new trends that are coming up at this point. Also, the remote and hybrid recruitment processes. So we're not saying 100% remote. We're not saying It has to be on site, but there has to be a hybrid. There has to be a hybrid. Even if the person is not coming to your head office, you're telling that person to go to the nearest branch or something, so that how do you know? Most times we do interviews remotely, and when the candidates show up physically, you're wondering,
How did we
is this
get here?
exactly
Yes.
the
How did we get
mismatch?
here? Have
The
had
mis
situations like that. I'm not even going to lie about it.
and
And someone
and
in the comment section actually mentioned something like that, saying that please take away virtual video interview method. It is actually very inorganic. I agree to an extent because I love the days of going for an interview, speaking directly from your head. But these days, you do not even know how many systems that are open in front of that person. You do not even know who is behind that camera. You don't even know who is behind the
filtering that
video.
person.
You're typing,
Exactly.
asking the questions, you're typing, and then, there's something prompting you to read up the interview. And I'm like, how do you know for sure that this person can do the job? So, but when
So
you
you can
bring
call me. You can call me old school, but sincerely, I leverage so much on the hybrid. I will interview remotely wherever you are. I'll travel and come and have that final conversation with you, because that is when I can actually test you, test your IQ, test your EI, your critical reasoning skills, the soft skills that you haven't been able to demonstrate on during the virtual call, because
virtually,
that's basically what you can test there is actually the technical skills,
yes, yes,
you know.
yes,
So there are so yeah, it's very important that you leverage on that hybrid interviewing process, and of course the CRM, very important. We have the chat bot, the AI bot, where candidates can actually ask questions and they get responses. I interviewed in this company 3 weeks ago. I am ready to get a feedback. With your chat bot, you auto feed with responses. Then you can communicate with your candidates immediately instead of using the email. So yes, the chatbot and the other things I've mentioned are the emerging trends. Are the emerging trends.
Thank you. Thank you so much for even emphasizing on that. I was thinking it was just me thinking about the whole virtual thing, and I'm like, I
Mm.
love it, but then I'm like, I also have my reservations about virtual interviews. I actually do have my reservations. Sometimes you interview someone and they look okay on the call, and then they're resuming, and you're like,
Hello.
what did I do? What did I do? Didn't I think about this? And you didn't see that during the virtual interview. This person must I use the word bobo you. You could have just
Mm.
gotten stuff, just bobo you, but not really on that call. And you're like, okay, I've gotten the right person. And then the person resumes and you're like, nah. I'm not sure I was the one who did this. And then you now start asking
Exactly.
yourself questions that how am I not competent enough to get someone on the job? How did we do it back then when you had to do physical interviews before coming this inception of virtual interviews? But however,
And
I have a question. Yeah, yes, please.
sorry to interject. So if anybody's on the call and thinking we're on the extreme, we're not on the extreme. Now let's look at manufacturing firms. I'm interviewing for an engineer to join my production unit. The engineer, just be watching my words, is using uh, XP 234 on his production line. My company is using CM 452. So yes, it's the same it's the same technicality and the composition for that machine, but the engineer needs to come on site to check my machine and see
Yes,
whether she can drive that process.
of
So I'm
course.
a strong advocate of the hybrid. I'm a strong advocate of the hybrid, and there are different reasons for it. So it's not as if we're asking for the extreme, but it has to be done so that you're getting the best hires into your organization and managing your
Yeah.
turnaround time.
Very, very important. So one of the questions that I'm seeing that has been sent to me is in a case where candidates respond to your feedback, asking recruiter to be specific about areas they didn't do well during the interview. How do you respond to it, if at all you must?
So I will tell you, those questions are what we call as coaches, they're open-ended questions. And what open-ended questions do is that they elicit more and more response until you get yourself boxed into a corner. So, so if I'm going to respond, customer kind of comes back and says, "Yeah, Ty, well, thank you for your feedback. I would like to know which areas I need to work on." I will just respond, "Thank you for reaching out again. While I may not be able to go into details, The areas you will want to look out for, I didn't say work on. The areas you will want to look out for in future interviews will be along the line of communication, presentation, or just list those areas out, and that's it.
Yeah.
But don't say
Yeah.
when you were asking this particular question, this was how you
Because
answered.
you
This is what we're
answered it.
expecting you to answer. No.
No,
And
true, true.
you wrap it up quite nicely that way.
Okay, this is not tied to our topic for the day. But someone is actually asking that what steps do you take to ensure client confidentiality and data security? I think this is really unique to each organization. Whoever is asking that question, you might need to speak with probably your business intelligence unit and your IT specialist. They will definitely explain that better to you. Of course, your HR too. So it's always very unique to every organizations, right? So, but you need to take different measures. Make sure that you have your data security policies in place, and then you have your client's confidentiality policy, which actually is going to guide you. So that's very important for you to take note of. So I have one question here that I'm wondering why it's being asked. How do you handle conflicts or challenges that arise during a project? It's almost like an open-ended question because I'm not seeing the basis of, of the question, yes, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have
But
anything
you know,
to give
like, you know what?
to the person?
For me, when we have conflict, I see conflicts as positives within the organization. It means that we
Yeah,
are really working,
yeah.
and it means that people are bringing themselves their full self to bear, um,
Hmm.
and that if
Operating.
you look at the forms of the forms of progression of a team, it starts from the forming stage to the storming stage. The forming stage is when everybody's just trying to bring their best foot forward, and so there's
Yeah.
some form of pretense. When the team is in a storming stage, it means they are being as open. This is who I am. These are the things I would take, and the things I would not take. And so conflicts are bound to happen. Now, though it's not part of our conversation, but I will answer quickly. The first thing
Yeah.
is that when you're setting up a project, there must be TOR. The terms of reference must be clear. The second thing is that communication must also be one of the things that must be enhanced in this conversation. And the third thing is that there must be a clear project lead. There must be a clear project lead and also timelines. Beyond that, finally, is that everybody must be given their responsibilities to avoid clashes. So you know the ambit within which you are working within that team. Recall terms of reference. There must be a
Yeah.
clear leader. There must be timelines, and there must be proper allocation of responsibilities to everybody in the team. Now, when conflicts occur, it is the responsibility of the leader not to shy away from it. Call the parties together, get to the crux of the issue, and nip it in the bud. That project, always look at the big picture. The project
Picture.
must be done. Must be
Yes.
done.
Yes. So someone is actually asking a question in the comment section from Idara. What about remote tech companies? It's just in relating to what we actually discussed a couple of minutes ago. What about remote tech companies? How can hiring managers still provide an excellent employee experience?
Hmm. So the company is remote. How does a
Yeah.
hiring manager enhance a proper employee
Yeah.
experience? So first and
Yes.
foremost, I would say, and this is what I have done over time, is that there must be a pre-conversation, there must be a pre-chat before the interview. And that is done by HR. Schedule a 30 minutes conversation with that person to let the person have an idea of your organization, the people that he or she will be meeting, the expectation from that role. So you set the tone. HR must set that tone with that candidate. It starts from there. So there has to be a pre-interview chat with HR. You ask all forms of questions that you want to ask as seamless as possible. So that it has a way of warming up that person or endearing that candidate to the organization. The second thing I would say also is that there has to be feedback. It's remote,
Yeah.
remote. And then I also want to say that it's a two-way street. You yourself, who is the candidate, must ask the right questions. There has never been an interview I've been invited for. I ask, please, who am I meeting? Who are the people I'm meeting? And they would always tell me their names. I go on Google, I go on LinkedIn,
And then,
I
yeah.
go and check them out so that I have an idea of who I'm seeing. At the end of the day, and I want to throw this out there, an interview could either go either way, either a yes or a no. But
No.
it doesn't deplete or change who you are or your competencies. It just means that you are not, we call it the right fit. You are not the best. People that are
Yeah.
hired are not the best candidates. The people that are hired are the perfect fit for the organization.
The
And when
organization.
I say perfect fit, it means the role, the culture, the environment, the location, and other circumstances determine who will be picked at the end of the day. So it's not
They
always the best candidate, it's the perfect candidate, the perfect fit that is hired at the end of the day. So it has nothing to do with me. If you don't hire me, Dorothy, into your organization, I just say, well, I'm not the perfect fit.
best for the organization. True.
Yeah, I'm not the perfect fit.
Like you said, you always ask when they should tell you, the names of the people you meet. What I even do
Yeah,
in Jobberman, what we do is we already have a structure whereby we're sending you an email. We're telling you the names of the people on the panel.
excellent.
We're telling you their
Excellent.
roles, and then what you do is go ahead and go on LinkedIn, look at their wealth of experiences are, and then have that at the back of your mind, so that when you're asking questions, you're asking the direct question to whoever is actually on that call. So it's pretty much very important that as hiring managers that we actually specify, state the names of the people that you're going to be speaking with, so that they have an idea and know how to
Yeah,
tailor the questions. Yeah. So
yeah.
and someone is asking, so if you applied for an internship role, that's a job, and got interviewed, so it's more like you're being interviewed for, you actually apply for an internship role, and then you're interviewed for years of experience. And I truly, some organizations actually do that, or they'll tell you we're looking for maybe it could be a customer experience intern, and then you look expecting that person to have 2 or 3 years worth of experience. So it's always very questionable. So how do they handle stuff like this?
So I would say one thing. For us as organizations, we have to face our reality. Now, looking at the demand and supply flow in terms of recruitment, we're in a
Yeah.
surplus economy. We're in a surplus economy. We have to face our reality. We
Mm.
have talent out there. It's a huge pool out there. And so we organizations tend to want to be overboard in terms of their requirements. But how do we get them in to have those experiences when you haven't hired them? When you haven't hired them. So I would say that for organizations, we have to be realistic in terms of our expectation. Two,
Mm.
we must be ready to also help in developing those talents. Now, on the flip side of the candidate, now I always talk on two sides. You need to also find a way of enhancing your experience level. And I'm going somewhere. Many people have this mindset that until I get into a brick and mortar or a proper formal organization and I'm being paid, that's the only way I can get experience. Guess what? You can volunteer. And I'm going to share a personal experience on this call for as many that can latch on it. I have someone who is my personal shopper. This is a graduate, but she doesn't have a job yet. All she does is now to go to the market and get me my items. Of course, because I'm a
Yeah.
busy exec, I cannot go all the time. Guess what? I just called her one day and I said, "You've been doing this thing for me for the last 2 years. Now you said you don't have experience, right? But you're a procurement specialist. You negotiate,
Mm.
you source, so go ahead and put
See.
on your CV 2 years procurement expertise and put the name of the company you've done it for. If it's your own organization, put it there. But you've gained
Yeah.
2 years. Volunteer in the technical department in your church or your religious body, you're gaining experience there.
Mm.
You're doing one form or one thing or the other. Before you know what's happening, your CV is full. And this is what is
True.
happening in other clients. These young people, they go for internship, they do off school jobs, and they are acquiring information all the time. Somebody is saying, "Ha, volunteer in this economy."
In this
I would
economy, I saw
say
it
that
too. You have to be
no,
very realistic. You
I
have to volunteer
know,
for you to get
but you
somewhere.
see,
That's the honest truth.
you need to pay a
Pay your
price for
dues.
everything. Nothing good comes easy. You need to pay a price. I'm serious. I have volunteered without salary for a while, but I was gaining the experience. I was in a formal environment. And in 1.5 years, I got a full-time job. You need to start from somewhere. We know the economy is tough, but you must be able to willing to pay that price. Honestly, that's my own honest opinion. You could,
That's
yeah, you just need to do it.
That's the truth. Someone is asking whose side are the HRs on, employees or business owners or management?
I'm going to answer all her. For us as HR, we're arbiters, we're in the middle. First and foremost, I'm a trusted advisor to the business. At the same time, and I'm an employee ally. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. I can't be 100% an employee ally, and the business is failing. Then there's no work for us to come to do. At the end of the day, also, the company can be draconian and not be fair in employee practices, and I expect our employees to stay. So yes, I'm a trusted advisor to the business. I'm a strategic partner to the business, but at the same time, I'm also an employee ally. So we stand in the middle. So at times, business is angry with us on some things we
Yes.
want to enforce them to do for the people. And at the same time, people are also angry with us when we want to enforce the policies. So, dear Dorothy, who is supporting us as HR?
No, that's the thing. So who are we even going to complain to?
So we're,
That's
so we're the orphans in this instance. We're the
exactly.
orphans.
Even when HR
We're
has
always
issues, who do you reach out to? Because the employees are complaining to HR. The management are like, okay, you have to
yeah,
do this to the employees. And then HR is in the middle. Who are
exactly.
we going to reach out to with our own grievances? We are just
Exactly.
stuck somewhere.
So,
The policy sometimes
so
do not even work.
business will like us part time. The people will also like us part time. But what is most
Yes,
important is that we're asking ourselves: Are we professional? Are we doing the right thing? And are we passionate about what we are doing? And are we delivering results as HR? At the end of the day, if we're able to ace all those questions, for me, I'm happy and I'm good to go. Happy and I'm good to
yes,
go.
yes. Oh, this has been there's so many questions in the comment section. I'm not
Honest,
sure we'll be able
I'm
to
seeing them
take,
also.
I'm not sure we'll be able to take every one of
Somebody
them.
even asked. Somebody asked for an email. Somebody asked for an email to say,
To
"Do we
ask
have an email
questions.
we can send other questions to?"
See, I know that these webinars like this are very important for HRs, recruiters, and hiring managers because
Yeah, yeah,
truth of the matter is we also need to hear that other things, other opinions from other HRs to be sure that okay, you're not alone in this journey. Because sometimes you just sit down and think, ah, this is happening to me, and you're like, no, 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 no. It's also happened to somebody else, somebody else, somebody else. It's people that have
exactly.
actually had like decades of experiences way ahead of you. So it's always good to get nuggets from senior HR professionals so that you can actually be sure that you are on the right path. So I think we can actually. There's this last question I'm saying. What if you've gotten experience and still having issues concerning salary balance? We sometimes we are oh dear.
So we call those kind of candidates, and this is where HR comes to play. And we need to be as fair as possible. We have some people who actually have experience, but they have been in disadvantaged situations. So they got employment in organizations that haven't been able to pay them commensurate to the value they bring to the table. So they are disadvantaged. But that should not be the premise on which their subsequent hiring should be. So we hear HR saying, "What was your last salary? Or can you share your payslip?" And I'm putting it on the
Hmm.
table now. Those are unacceptable practices.
Yeah.
Some HR will say that we want to use it to benchmark. No, benchmark internally. Look at the compensable factor of that role you want to hire. That compensable factor basically means how critical and important is this role to us as an organization, and
Yeah.
allocate resources to that role. So, for example, we have three levels of HR: transactional, operational, and strategic HR. We are all HR managers, but you
Yeah.
cannot pay a transactional HR the same salary you will pay a strategic HR. Now, if where I'm coming from, I was just operational, yes, effect policies and what has been taken, and you are interviewing me for a role and you know that I am competent to come in as a strategic HR, you can't
Yeah.
benchmark my salary to what I was earning as operational
True.
because the value I'm bringing to the table is, or what you need me for is better. So for me, for the person who is having issues concerning salary balance, I believe that if you know what you're worth, go ahead and have that conversation with your organization. But please don't compare. We always fail in that, guys, because we go to leadership and say, HR, I know that Taiwo is earning so and so, and Dorothy is earning. Meanwhile, you know me and Dorothy, we came in together. It's a no unprofessional conversation that must be had. Because I will first of all ask you, how did you know Dorothy's salary? But come into the conversation to say, I've been with you for this long. These are my achievements and accomplishments and the value I have added so far. This is what the industry is saying for my role. Come with data. Show them the data. And this is, I believe that the organization will be able to match me halfway. I am willing to request for this. I'm telling you, I would respect you and I will do the needful. If a good talent will do the needful to review and keep you, to review and keep you.
That's deep. Salary negotiations are conversations that, honestly, sometimes you go with your gut instinct, and then you also have to reach out to senior professionals because they're the only ones that can advise you better. In as much as you want to request for a very high salary, you have to also know the capacity on which you can also deliver that job, because you have to be very
Exactly.
realistic. You're not going to say you want this XYZ amount of salary and then you
And
can't
then you're
actually
performing at
match
this
up with your
level.
expectations. So it's not marriable. So you also have to tell yourself the truth. You have to be very self-aware. It's also very important to be self-aware. Can I deliver on
Yeah,
the job based on the salary expectations that I'm actually having, or I cannot? So
exactly.
if you can't, just tell yourself the truth and go ahead and learn the ropes, understand the skills necessary to actually succeed in that role. So people are not ready to take feedbacks. That's what I've come to realize.
Yeah.
If you're not
Mm.
ready to take feedbacks, sorry, I'm not sure you're ready to grow. So, but if you can take
So,
feedback and do them well, it's very important.
for me, I think I've drawn my circle closer in terms of being able to give feedback because what we hear back is, oh, the way she spoke with me, she's affected my mental health, and I hate words like that. But we need to be open to feedback. We need to be open to the feedback. Is the last part of that loop in any process. There has to be feedback
Yeah,
because it's the feedback that helps you to know which areas to work on, what to drop, what to take on. It's called having a growth mindset.
true,
Until you have a growth mindset, you're not going
true.
anywhere. And if you're in an organization that is not paying you well, I would say keep delivering value, keep adding value to yourself, and a better one will attract you. Or the company may
Thank you.
eventually see your worth and they would pay you. But there's always, life is about process.
It's process.
Wear it out, please. Wear
It's
it out.
process.
Yes, wear
Process.
it out.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Taiwo. This has been very insightful. I don't know about other HR professionals on the call here today, but for me, a lot of nuggets has actually been taken back with me. So, hi everyone. It's also very important to download, click on the link so that you can actually get access to all of the nugget that's been shared today and the PDF that was sent to your email. You can also still send questions to this link within the few minutes that we'll have. So, Mrs. Howard, do you have any final takes for us today that we can take home as
So
HR professionals?
let me first of all appreciate you, Dorothy. You made it so easy for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was a good conversation. And my
Thank you.
take my gift back to people on the call is that, one, the quality of your candidate experience lies in your hands for your organization. HR, we need to understand that we've moved from being a support function to becoming a strategic function. We are at that forefront of creating that kind of experience. But the only way you can win, for lack of a better word, is first of all, you engender trust. The company you work with able to trust you.
Yeah.
Secondly, for you as HR, build capabilities. Know what it takes to deliver on your role. Dorothy mentioned that. And also strengthen your network. Most times we're looking for things for Somalia when what you're looking for is just right beside you with a connection with someone else. So also attend webinars like this, attend sessions, equip yourself, and we would make our environment a better place. But that brand visibility and enhancement and the quality of perception people have about your brand lies in our hands as HR. You might think it's the work of corporate communications, but we also have a pivotal role to play in the scheme of things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Such a lovely way to start. Yes. Thank you so much, Mercedes. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Honestly, it's been very insightful, like I said. So I'm going to be connecting with you, of course, out from here. I'm going to ensure that we connect
Definitely.
better from your LinkedIn. Yes, I really, really do enjoy a conversation with you. So thank you so much once more. I think we can actually call it a day here. Yeah, thank you. Enjoy your
Thank you,
weekend,
everyone.
everyone.
Enjoy your
Yes,
weekend. Do take care and bye for now.
bye.